What's wrong with DeSantis?
He's
done a great job in Florida.
He has, but why? Why? Everybody loves Austin Powers, right? Because Ron DeSantis is the mini-me of President Trump. What he's doing in Florida is like a scaled-down version of America First, but applied to one state. So, you know, as Bill Maher said recently, why would you go to the tribute band's concert if the OG band is still playing? Good point. Why would you vote for the mini-me version who can kind of do stuff at that level on the state, who has no background in foreign policy, no chops on national security? Why would you? It's a pig in a poke. It's, you know, you don't know. So let me first say, I want him on the platform. I want him on the primary. But here are the problems with Ron. My buddy who has the morning show here on radio, who is my show prep, keeps millions of people sane. He was talking about Ron DeSantis running for governor way back when, whatever it was, 3 years ago. And he said, this 3-term congressman from Florida, and we help each other out. And I was just about to text him live on air and say, Chris, what are you talking about? 3-term congressman. You've got to have your fact checkers do their work. And then I thought, okay, hang on, before I press send, I'm going to Google his CV. Oh yeah, Chris was right. He'd served 5.5 years in Congress. And me, a political junkie, had no idea. If you've been in Congress for 3 terms and I haven't heard your name, odds are you're probably an oxygen thief. Secondly, a couple of issues that really disturb me. One of his biggest backers now is Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin is a billionaire, hedge fund, tech guy, or what have you, who is a never-Trumper, who was Obama's biggest bundler. Excuse me? Why is Obama's, if you're conservative, biggest campaign funding bundler one of the biggest people funding somebody who's supposed to be the new Donald Trump? My fear is that they are whispering sweet nothings in his ear, saying, you're the guy, and he's being exploited by the establishment rhino class, the Republicans in name only. And I looked in the camera on my show and said, Ron, run for president, good on you. Don't let yourself become a tool of the establishment that hates populist, MAGA, America First, whatever you want to call it. And the last thing is, this is where he tanked in the last few weeks, his flip-flop on Ukraine. This is the guy who has to prove most that he's good on foreign policy as a former Navy officer. His flip-flop on Ukraine within 72 hours was a disaster, and it showed in the polls. And then most telling of all is his response to the leak of the indictment against President Trump. His first press conference on the Monday after it was leaked on Saturday was catastrophic. A, he decided not to talk about it, despite the fact that President Trump lives in the state he is the governor of, in Florida. Then in the Q&A on some thing about tech, a journalist naturally said, could you react to the leaked indictment of President Trump? And twice, not once, twice, like a churlish little punk in the schoolyard, he mentions, well, I'm not going to comment on hush money for porn stars. Grow up, Ron. If you're a conservative, you believe in law and order and that Lady Justice is blindfolded. So you're going to make fun. I know, it's kind of fun to dig and say hush money for porn stars, but not only are you the governor of the state in which this citizen resides, who should have equality before the law, whether he's a former president or not. Secondly, and you have to know his background, he was a JAG. He was a member of the Judge Advocate General Corps for the Navy, which means he was a prosecutor. He was a lawyer. If anyone should have something to say about politically aggressive prosecutors doing things that are shady, it should probably be a former military prosecutor. And he paid the price. And in the polls, he's between 20 to 40 points behind President Trump. But good luck to him. But, not impressive so far in these issues. President Trump and Ukraine.
Do you think he stands a chance?
No. Nobody. Look, Kissinger, not a big fan of Trump, although he used to hang out in the White House almost every weekend. He loved to be back in the halls of power when we were there. Kissinger has said, and he's been around,
He's been around
He's
a
been
while.
around, been around. He said he hasn't seen anybody mobilize Americans like President Trump does since FDR. When Kissinger says the power of this man to mobilize Americans, it hasn't been seen since Roosevelt, you probably should pay attention. And let's just be empirical. One of the funniest things about the campaign in 2015, because I'd be advising President Trump on national security, is I'd go to Trump Tower, to the campaign headquarters with some regularity. And I'd be in there constantly overhearing the conversations of, we've booked Mr. Trump for this high school stadium, but it's already overflowing. We've got to go to the next one, get the local state football. They were constantly having to cancel engagements and go to bigger venues because this is the only man in America who can announce tomorrow, I'm going to Miami or Poughkeepsie or anywhere and fill a stadium with 60,000 people. Biden could get 6. Ron, maybe 10. This man, anywhere, even in Democrat states, so can get the people. I flew with him on Air Force One to Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown is the Rust Belt, okay? It's the part of America that's been destroyed. We were riding in the convoy to the stadium, and on the left, all you saw was disused, empty, shattered steel mills. On the right, families dressed very modestly, standing on the pavement, waving their stars and stripes. We got to the stadium. Boss was in the back, glad-handing with the VIPs. I decided to go into the pit of the stadium and meet with the people of Youngstown, and the selfies and all that jazz. When President Trump and Melania came out on stage, it was electric. He couldn't start his speech because for minutes, the crowd spontaneously were chanting, USA, USA, USA. This in a town that is 90% Democrat. The people in that stadium were Democrats, their dads were Democrats, their granddads were Democrats. That's a force of nature, whether you like his tweets or not. The fact that working class Americans who have been betrayed by the Uniparty for 60 years look at this billionaire as a guy who cares, it's an unstoppable force of nature.
So the difficulty is, and I'm not even playing devil's advocate here, which is kind of my job, but actually this is what I genuinely a question in my mind is, there are 2 elements to winning an election. One is what you're talking about, which is mobilizing the base, right? The other one is persuading the undecided.
Correct.
And that is undoubtedly the problem with President Trump's approach, right? Now, you made the point yourself, and you articulated it very well. At the last election, he mobilized more of his base than any incumbent president in history. But at the same time, he still lost. And his ability to persuade is extremely limited now, I think, because of his rhetoric, but also January the 6th and also the indictment, right? The people who are the undecideds, they're going to be harder to win over for him. And the reason people are talking about DeSantis is that they see him as very competent in terms of the things he did, particularly COVID. I think that was a big deal for a lot of people, the things that he's done there, and many other things that he's doing in Florida. And on top of that, because he does not have, you're right, he doesn't animate people in the same way, but animation can go in both directions. So he doesn't off-put as many people, or put off as many people as President Trump does. And that's why I think a lot of people on your side are saying, well, maybe if we just get this guy, who I agree with you, he is in some ways taken on a lot of the gestures of President Trump and the finger and all.
Making fun of the press and everything. Right.
But he isn't going to have the toxicity, and as a result, he's a better candidate to actually try to heal some of the divides in this country. That's the argument.
So, to be the bastard or to sound like Trump's pit bull, I'm not interested in healing divides. I want to save the nation. Healing divides...
But isn't that the same thing?
No. It's a difference between, in military terms, there's a tank 5 clicks away over the horizon that can blow me to smithereens, but there's a guy in front of me with a gun with a bayonet and he's about to put it in my guts. The situation in America right now is there's a guy with a bayonet coming for me 2 feet away. When the FBI is doing what they're doing, when when parents are being targeted by the Department of Justice because they dare to say, we don't want pedophilic pornography in the school library, we don't want racist concepts like critical race theory to be taught to 10-year-olds, and we want our kids back in school without masks. And the FBI has actually created a threat tag. It's getting technical, but they created a whole terminology to use Patriot Act counterterrorism tools to target parents. And now we know Catholics. A recent memo was leaked from Richmond FBI headquarters, FBI field office, saying, watch out and make sure you surveil Catholics who go to traditional masses, especially Latin masses, as potential threats to America. Not BLM, not Antifa, Catholics. There has been no attack that I know of since I've lived in America that was because of people who went to Latin mass as Catholics. The bayonet is inching towards the sternum of this nation. We can heal after we stop the corruption in this city. The political weaponization of the most powerful government in the world must be stopped. And I'm sorry, Ron DeSantis doesn't have the balls or the maturity to do it. And there's one man who's walked through the arena for 6 years now, who has more potential than anyone to fix it. And to your point about winning, there is we're all political junkies. There's a very disturbing fact in American politics. Between 20 and 32% of the electorate decide who they're going to vote on in a presidential election in the last 8 days, which blows my mind. I mean, you're in a tribe. Yes, you are in a tribe. You're in a tribe as well as I am. We love the West. But the idea that you could go from Jimmy Carter to Reagan in the last week before an election, like kind of flip a coin, like, what? My contention, my hope, I can't prove it, is that things will be so bad in 20 months' time that the undecideds, the middle of the road, will vote for President Trump, not because he's MAGA or because he's going to drain the deep state, but because, I don't know if you followed this in England. Recently, we didn't have baby formula in America. We had a baby formula drought. You went to the local, Safeway, and the shelf was empty. This is the only nation on God's green earth that put 12 men on the moon. We went there 6 times, but we don't have baby formula? We had a disastrous train accident, chemical waste, inferno. It took the government 14 days to go to the site of the disaster, as if the people in this Trump working class district didn't really matter. If you look at inflation, if you look at the incapacity of kids to buy property and start on the ladder, it's going to get worse. So my hope is it's not cool campaign ads or polite tweets that are going to save us. It's going to be that so many people are going to say, I'm sorry, the pendulum has to swing back.
We'll find out if that happens.
We will.
One last question
Yeah.
before we go. Let's talk about your political hero, Joe Biden.
Slow Joe. Beijing.